Back to the Book Nook podcast. Today we're diving into a book that's considered a classic in the self-help genre, James Allen's As a Man Thinketh.
Oh, this one is a powerhouse of a book.
It really is. And we're going to unpack all the wisdom it holds, so get ready for some serious mind shifts, because this book is all about the power of our thoughts and the lives we create for ourselves.
It's incredible how relevant this book remains, even though it was written over a century ago.
Right. Like Allen was tapping into some timeless truths about human nature and the workings of the mind.
He really was. And one of the things that struck me the most is how Allen doesn't shy away from exploring the spiritual dimension of thought.
Totally. He seamlessly blends philosophy, psychology, and spirituality, presenting a holistic view of human potential.
Definitely. So where do we even begin with a book as profound as A Man Thinketh?
Well, I think it all starts with that central idea that Allen hammers home right from the beginning. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
That's the foundation of the entire book, isn't it?
It is. And it's so simple, yet so profound. What do you think Allen means by this?
Well, on the surface, it's saying that our thoughts create our reality.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we are not merely passive recipients of our circumstances. Our thoughts actively shape who we are and what we experience.
So it's not just about positive thinking. It's about understanding that our thoughts have a tangible impact on our lives. They're not just fleeting things that come and go.
Precisely. They're the seeds that grow into our actions, our habits, our relationships, everything.
It's like that quote by Buddha, what we think, we become.
Exactly. Our thoughts are the architects of our lives. And Allen uses this brilliant analogy of the mind as a garden to illustrate this point.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Me too. It's so powerful because it makes this abstract concept of thought so tangible. Just like a gardener carefully tends to their plants, weeding out the harmful ones and nurturing those that bear fruit, we need to cultivate our thoughts with intention.
And just like a garden, our minds can become overgrown with weeds, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, fears if we don't tend to them regularly.
Right, and those weeds can choke out the beautiful flowers, the positive thoughts, the creative ideas, the seeds of our potential.
So it's not enough to just plant the seeds of our desires. We have to create the right conditions for them to flourish.
And that means being mindful of the thoughts we allow to take root in our minds.
So we have to become more aware of our thought patterns, those habitual ways of thinking that often run on autopilot.
And we have to challenge those thoughts that don't serve us, the ones that hold us back from experiencing our full potential.
This is where it starts to get really empowering, right?
Yes, because it means we have more control over our lives than we often realize. We're not just victims of our circumstances. We have the power to choose our thoughts, and in doing so, we choose our reality.
This reminds me of something you said earlier about Allen exploring the spiritual dimension of thought. How does that fit into this idea of creating our reality?
Well, Allen believed that there's a universal intelligence that's constantly responding to our thoughts.
So it's like our thoughts are sending out signals into the universe, and the universe is mirroring those signals back to us in the form of our experiences.
Exactly. And this is where it gets a little mind-bending, but Allen suggests that by aligning our thoughts with this universal intelligence, we tap into a power that's far greater than our own limited minds.
It's like we become co-creators with the universe.
Yes. And this is where the concept of purpose comes in. Allen believed that having a clear sense of purpose is crucial for aligning our thoughts with this higher power.
It's like purpose acts as a compass, guiding us towards the experience that they're meant for us.
Exactly. And it gives our thoughts direction and focus. Without purpose, our thoughts can scatter in a million directions, leading to a life that feels fragmented and unfulfilling.
So purpose is not just about achieving external goals. It's about connecting to something bigger than ourselves.
It's about aligning our thoughts with our soul's mission, with our unique contribution to the world.
And that alignment, in turn, creates a ripple effect, impacting not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
It's a beautiful and empowering idea, isn't it?
It really is. And it's a reminder that we have more power to shape our reality than we often realize.
And that power starts with our thoughts.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of Allen's profound insights.
There's so much more to unpack. We haven't even touched upon his ideas about the impact of thought on health, circumstances, and achievement.
But that's for our next segment. Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into James Allen's As a Man Thinketh.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a flash.
And we'll be delving even deeper into the power of thought.
It's going to be mind-blowing.
See you in a sec.
Welcome back to the Book Nook podcast. We're continuing our deep dive into James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. Before the break, we were talking about purpose, this idea that having a clear sense of why we're here can actually help us direct our thoughts and create a more fulfilling life.
It's like having a roadmap for our minds. Without purpose, it's easy to feel lost and for our thoughts to scatter in a million directions.
But when we have a strong sense of purpose, it's like everything clicks into place, right? Our thoughts become more focused, our actions become more aligned, and we start to attract the experiences that are meant for us.
It's like we tap into this inner compass that guides us toward our true north. And Allen believes that purpose is intimately connected with achievement. He argues that achievement in any area of life, whether it's material success, creative expression, or spiritual growth, ultimately boils down to the quality of our thoughts.
So it's not just about setting goals and working hard, it's about cultivating a mindset that supports our aspirations.
Exactly. Allen believed that our thoughts are the seeds of our accomplishments. And just like a seed needs fertile soil to grow, our thoughts need a supportive mental environment to flourish.
It's like creating a mental greenhouse where we nurture the thoughts that will help us bloom into our fullest potential.
And that means weeding out the negative thoughts, the doubts, and the fears that can sabotage our growth.
I think a lot of people struggle with this. We get so caught up in those negative thought patterns that we forget we have the power to choose different thoughts.
It's like we're running the same mental programs over and over again, even when they're no longer serving us.
And breaking free from those old patterns can feel really challenging.
It can be. But Allen believed that we have the power to reprogram our minds by consciously choosing the thoughts we focus on.
So instead of being a victim of our thoughts, we become the master of them.
And one of the ways Allen suggests we do this is through visualization.
Oh, I've heard a lot about the power of visualization.
It's an incredibly powerful tool. Allen believed that by creating a clear mental picture of what we want to achieve, we essentially plant the seed of that desire in our subconscious mind.
And then our subconscious mind starts working behind the scenes to help us manifest that desire into reality.
Exactly. Allen believed that the subconscious mind is incredibly receptive to images. He even suggests that the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a real event and a vividly imagined one.
So if we can convince our subconscious mind that something is already true, it will start to act accordingly.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of faith comes in. Allen believed that faith is not just a religious concept, it's a mental state that we can cultivate by repeatedly affirming our desired outcome, by seeing it as already accomplished in our mind's eye.
So it's not just about wishing or hoping for something to happen. It's about believing that it's already happening, even if we can't see it yet in the physical world.
And that belief, that unwavering faith, is what fuels our actions and propels us toward our goals.
But what about those times when things don't go our way? When we face setbacks or challenges, does Allen address that?
He does, and he acknowledges that challenges are inevitable. But he reminds us that setbacks are not failures. They're opportunities for growth.
So it's not about avoiding challenges altogether. It's about learning from them and using them to become even stronger and more resilient.
Exactly. And he suggests that our response to challenges is more important than the challenges themselves. He says that every difficulty slurred over will be a ghost to disturb your repose later on.
So it's better to face our challenges head on and learn from them than to try to sweep them under the rug.
Because those unaddressed challenges will inevitably resurface in some form or another.
It's like they become mental baggage that we carry with us, weighing us down or preventing us from moving forward.
And Allen reminds us that we have the power to choose how we respond to those challenges. We can choose to dwell in negativity and self-pity, or we can choose to see them as opportunities for growth and transformation.
It's about shifting our perspective, seeing challenges not as obstacles, but as stepping stones on our path to success.
And that shift in perspective, that ability to find the lesson in the challenge, is what sets successful people apart from those who remain stuck in their struggles.
Allen believed that true success is not about avoiding challenges. It's about overcoming them.
And that overcoming requires not just physical effort, but mental resilience. It requires the ability to maintain a positive outlook even when things get tough.
So it's about cultivating that inner strength that allows us to persevere in the face of adversity.
Exactly. And this brings us to another key concept that Allen explores. Serenity.
Serenity. I like the sound of that.
Me too. Especially in our fast-paced, often chaotic world, the idea of cultivating serenity can feel incredibly appealing.
But how do we achieve that state of inner peace when we're constantly bombarded with stress and distractions?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll delve into more deeply in our next segment. We'll explore Alan's insights on how to cultivate serenity and how this inner peace can ripple outward, impacting not just our own lives, but the world around us.
I'm looking forward to that. But before we dive into that, I just want to remind our listeners that if you're enjoying our deep dive into As a Man Thinketh, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It helps others discover the Book Nook and join our community of curious minds. We'll be right back with more from James Allen's profound work. Welcome back to the Book Nook podcast. We're wrapping up our deep dive into As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And before the break, we were talking about achieving serenity.
Ah, yes, serenity.
Such a powerful concept.
It is.
But it can also feel kind of elusive, especially in today's world.
Definitely. With everything going on around us, it's easy to feel like peace is something that's always just out of reach.
So how do we actually cultivate serenity in a practical way? Like, what are some steps we can take?
Well, Alan suggests that serenity is not something we can force. It's not about suppressing our emotions or pretending everything is okay when it's not.
So it's not about putting on a happy face and ignoring our problems.
Exactly. Instead, he suggests it's about cultivating a deep understanding of how our minds work and how our thoughts create our reality.
So it starts with that awareness we talked about earlier, recognizing those negative thought patterns and choosing to shift our focus.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to any given situation. We can choose to react with stress and anxiety, or we can choose to respond with calmness and clarity.
But that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually make that choice when we're in the heat of the moment?
It takes practice. And Alan emphasizes the importance of mindfulness, of learning to observe our thoughts without judgment.
So instead of getting swept away by our emotions, we create some space between the thought and our reaction.
Exactly. We become the observer of our thoughts rather than the slave to them.
And that gives us the power to choose a different response.
Right. And Alan also suggests that focusing on the present moment can be incredibly helpful in cultivating serenity.
Because when we dwell on the past or worry about the future, we create a lot of unnecessary suffering for ourselves, right?
Exactly. And those worries often prevent us from fully experiencing the beauty and joy of the present moment.
So it's about learning to let go of those thoughts that don't serve us and to appreciate the simple things in life.
And to find joy in the journey rather than constantly striving for some future destination.
I love that. And, you know, Alan also talks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with beauty.
Yes. He believed that beauty has a profound impact on our minds and our spirits.
And he wasn't just talking about visual beauty, right? Like art and nature.
No, he was talking about beauty in all its forms. Music, literature, kind acts, inspiring ideas.
So it's about creating an environment that nourishes our souls, that uplifts and inspires us.
Exactly. Because when we surround ourselves with beauty, it naturally elevates our thoughts and helps us cultivate a more serene state of mind.
It's like creating a sanctuary for our minds, a space where we can escape the chaos of the world and reconnect with our inner peace.
And as we cultivate this inner peace, Alan suggests that it will naturally radiate outward, impacting not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
It's like that ripple effect we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Our thoughts and our energy have a profound impact on the world, whether we realize it or not.
So by cultivating serenity within ourselves, we're not just doing ourselves a favor, we're making the world a more peaceful place.
It's a beautiful and empowering idea. And it brings us back to that central theme of As a Man Thinketh, the power of our thoughts to shape our reality.
And our responsibility to use that power wisely.
Definitely. Alan believed that we have a moral obligation to cultivate thoughts that are not only beneficial to ourselves, but also contribute to the well-being of others.
This deep dive into As a Man Thinketh has been a powerful reminder that our thoughts are not just fleeting things.